Even though presidential candidates are no longer shaking hands and kissing babies, the race for the White House hasn't stopped. Trump campaign is now reaching voters online.
The campaign, like its leader, President Trump, has one gear, and that is forward.
Hey everybody.
Buenas noches.
Hello and welcome.
Hi everyone. We have the best data in the country. We have the best infrastructure laid out. And so now we get to capitalize on that data, on this infrastructure, to take our events online to the American public.
You might not see anyone going door to door. Those same volunteers are now making campaign calls from home.
While President Trump is focused on the health and safety of the American people, we here at the campaign are committed to defeating the Democrats, and how all of you at home can help us and join in this fight.
Its online campaign reached more than 1 million viewers.
It really is new age campaigning.
Just let's realize how good Donald Trump's political operation is.
The Trump organization has a well-documented, robust online infrastructure. You know, what they call their Trump army.
Tonight, I am honored to launch Catholics for Trump Coalition.
And welcome to our very first Black Voices for Trump online broadcast.
How can women stay engaged and informed?
I could not feel more proud about this country.
President Trump has done about everything that you can do.
The Biden's record on notable job-killing trade deals.
I'm supporting NAFTA.
We're so fortunate to have a wartime president to lead us through this global challenge.
And we're going to get through it.
And we are going to keep America great.
Hey everybody, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. I am Lara Trump, and we're back with another exciting episode of Team Trump Online. Tonight we have our friend Charlie Kirk, founder and president of Turning Point USA. Charlie, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor. God bless you. Hope you're staying safe.
Well, we're all doing our part. We're quarantining. It seems like you're quarantining in a bit of a sunnier location than I am, so I'm very jealous. But we're all doing our part to stop the spread of coronavirus. Look, we'll jump right in here. I want to start with China, because you've been tweeting a lot about China. How important do you think the president's early decision was to ban travel from China in January to stop the spread of the coronavirus?
Make no mistake, the president's decision to close off travel from China saved tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of American lives. And he did it on pure instinct. And we have learned over the last couple of years, when President Trump acts on instinct, the American people benefit and he saves lives. Joe Biden called him xenophobic. The media went out of their way to attack the president for doing the correct thing to seal off our borders and to prevent travel from the epicenter of this virus. What's so amazing about this, Laura, is that we actually didn't even know how infectious this disease was.
Right.
This was President Trump acting on instinct, acting on evidence of him as a business person, him as a leader that cares about the American people, and he made a rational decision saying that if it actually is worse than they're saying it is, and I don't close off travel, we could have something that is so beyond exponentially worse that we might not be able to recover from it. And so I think this entire Chinese coronavirus and the entire narrative around it actually validates everything the president has been talking about the last couple of years. I talk about this in my book, The MAGA Doctrine, which President Trump has talked about how these international globalist organizations, like the World Health Organization, like the United Nations, like TPP, like the Paris Climate Accord, more times than not, are not representing the interests of the American people. He was validated. The World Health Organization lied to the world and worked with the Chinese Communist Party to cover up this virus and did not tell us the truth about it in the most critical days where lives could have been saved. The president has also talked about sane and rational immigration policy. You look at him closing off the borders in late January, validates the decision. Now we know how infectious the disease actually is. So I think that this reinforces the MAGA doctrine. It reinforces what the president has been talking about for so many years. And you contrast that with the other side, what Joe Biden and all the other Democrats believe in. And obviously we can get into that, throughout this broadcast. But the president of the United States has been looking out for the best interests of the American people. And today, Americans can thank our president that he closed off travel from China, despite the chatter and despite the backlash from the media that called him all the worst names you can possibly call somebody.
Yeah, well, that's how they operate, Charlie. We all know that. You actually just mentioned the World Health Organization, and in one of your tweets, you actually said that China said the United States should fulfill its obligation to the World Health Organization and restore funding. I mean, I don't think anybody should be listening to China on this. Why do you think that it was so important that the president took this step to stop funding until further review of the World Health Organization?
Well, I mean, it's critical. I mean, look, the World Health Organization is similar to a lot of these other organizations and these entities that the United States disproportionately funded versus the rest of the world. And yet we pay them to criticize us and not represent the interests of the American people. Look, it took the president courage to freeze all funding and halt all funding to the World Health Organization. We fund them to try to prevent pandemics like the one that we're going through right now.
Right.
And if the World Health Organization was an impartial, neutral organization that cared about the well-being of the citizens of the globe, then they would have done a public press conference the day they saw an outbreak happening in Wuhan. Instead, for 6 days, they helped the Chinese Communist Party cover up the spread of the virus until it was not able to be covered up anymore. Those 6 days could have saved more lives. Those 6 days could have given Italian officials the opportunity to shut off travel from China. And so, look, the World Health Organization is very similar to a lot of these global compacts that the President of the United States has rightfully criticized. The president, on pure instinct, for many decades, asked the rational and correct and objective question, why are we bankrupting our own country? Why are we sending our tax dollars overseas to a group of elites that do not love America, that do not represent America, that actually a lot of times we're sending it to an organization to oppose the interests of the American people. This is why the President of the United States won decisively in 2016. This is why voters rose up for the historic election a couple of years ago, and why they're going to do it again in November, which is they felt like correctly that our own tax dollars and our futures were being sent around the world. Meanwhile, we saw decay happen domestically. And the President of the United States deserves so much credit for, guess what? He said he was going to renegotiate NAFTA. He did. He said he was going to get out of the Paris Climate Accord. He did. He said he was going to get NATO to pay their fair share. He did. He said he was going to get the UN to pay their fair share. He did. He said he was going to get out of the TPP. He did. He said he was going to challenge organizations like the World Health Organization. He did. He said he was going to cancel the Iran deal. He did. Amazing what he's been able to do. And you look, America's in a much more competitive and stronger place because the President of the United States has defended our sovereignty against these international globalist organizations that more times than not seem determined to disenfranchise the interests of the American people.
Yeah, you are exactly right. This is a great example of why the people in 2016 voted for Donald Trump. He is doing exactly what we voted him into office to do. He's leveling the playing field. He's calling people out that aren't pulling their weight. And everything you said is so spot on. And I think it's why, Charlie, the Democrats are going crazy. This is why since day one of Donald Trump being elected President of the United States, they've been doing everything they can to try and get him out of office. They've been doing everything they can to damage him because they've known what you said is right, that come November 3rd of this year, the people of this country are going to get out there and they're overwhelmingly going to reelect President Donald Trump to a second term. And I think it drives them all crazy. Even to our first question we talked about, when President Donald Trump was closing down the borders and saving American lives, this is the same day that Nancy Pelosi was giving out her impeachment pens. We remember that, right? How ridiculous do the Democrats look right now, Charlie? I mean, you've actually pointed out that during the coronavirus, a lot of the Democrat leadership have been behaving like dictators. Can you explain how actions by certain governors have gone too far? How do you think the Democrats have behaved during this whole situation?
Well, you bring up some brilliant and terrific points. And so you just look at the governors. You look at Governor Whitmer, for example, in Michigan, who has gone so far beyond the CDC guidelines to basically institute the most draconian, nonsensical, and arbitrary rules that you can't go from neighborly house to house, that you can't go to your second house in Michigan. And she has also deemed abortion a life-saving service, which is just so ironic, backwards, wrong, and I would argue just in complete defiance of reality and the facts. And you also look at, to your point, of Nancy Pelosi. While this virus was spreading, while this pandemic was spreading, do you know who in the House of Representatives is supposed to be reading the intel reports, supposed to be keeping a finger on the pulse, who is supposed to be communicating with the agencies? The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Do you know what the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee was doing? He was a little distracted. He was practicing in front of the mirror his prime time and cable television appearances while he was in front of the United States Senate against a sham impeachment. This is such an important point, Laura, because look, there's only so many hours in the day. We all recognize that. But when Congressman Adam Schiff, the top of his list, was making sure that he was enunciating his words correctly while he was just gallivanting, essentially trying to gallivant around this idea of impeaching Donald Trump, instead of doing his job and maybe saying, oh, wow, there's an outbreak of an infectious disease in China, which Senator Tom Cotton rightfully pointed out, and he was castigated by the American media for it, and he was attacked for it. Congressman Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and the entire Democrat leadership, including Jerry Nadler, they were in the U.S. Senate trying to convince U.S. senators to impeach Donald Trump. So while President Trump was shutting off travel, while President Donald Trump's allies in the U.S. Congress were trying to tell the truth about this virus and trying to say that this virus actually might harm the American economy and the American people, the Democrats were putting politics above the American people. And one final point on this, at the recording of this broadcast, and it's subject to change, but even how long it's taken is unacceptable. The Democrats have not approved additional small business funding. This is immoral, and this is a disgrace. Right now, down the street in Phoenix, Arizona, I have talked to restaurateurs, I've talked to entrepreneurs that are laying off a couple dozen employees every couple days. They do not get the SBA funding. Nancy Pelosi is standing in front of her $24,000 refrigerator with her delicatessen ice cream, going on late night comedy shows, making fun of the fact that she's able to hold the entire American economy hostage while American business people and entrepreneurs are suffering under the weight of this economic anxiety. The Democrats do not care about the well-being of the American people. They're putting politics above our country. It is despicable, and it's a disgrace, and it validates President Trump's instincts. I hope they start to finally represent the best interest of the American people. And if they don't, boy, there's going to be a political reckoning coming this November.
Well, I think that's going to happen either way. It's absolutely disgusting what we've seen come out of the Democrat side. And the American people are paying attention. I think, Charlie, the good news is everyone is tuning in right now. We're all tuned into the press briefings the president holds every day. 2+ hours he's up there answering questions from a vicious press pool that's looking at every turn to try and destroy him. And the American people see what he's doing, contrasted with what you just explained, which is what the Democrats have done, which is a whole lot of nothing, and doing things that are only for political gain and not for the American people. All right, we're going to take a quick break, everybody. Stay right where you are. We'll be right back with more Team Trump Online.
Ready to go?
This is a crisis.
This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysterical xenophobia.
Biden's son inked $1 billion deal with a subsidiary of the Bank of China.
China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not bad folks.
Since the outbreak, the Communist Party has been mobilizing overseas organizations to buy local supplies and send them to China.
It is in our self-interest that China continue to prosper. What a beautiful history we wrote together. Banning all travel will not stop it.
The president is right. That travel restriction on China, as every public health official we've talked to said, bought the country time.
That was a very smart move right there.
Hysterical xenophobia. Xenophobia. I complimented him on dealing with China. I'm not going nuts.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Charlie Kirk still with us tonight. Charlie, I want to dive into the media's treatment of Hunter and Joe Biden. Now, you've been pretty vocal about this issue. Can you talk about the double standard that exists when it comes to the media and Hunter Biden?
Yeah, if the left didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all. Hunter Biden and Joe Biden together are probably the most corrupt father-son duo in American political history. Joe Biden is the most corrupt vice president in American history, and he, for years, helped pave the way for the dominance of the Chinese Communist Party over the entire Asian region, and if not, over the international community. Joe Biden has discounted the rise of China, and even worse than that, he took Air Force Two with his son, Hunter Biden, from Washington, D.C. all the way to Beijing, and a couple of days later, Hunter Biden conveniently, who's unqualified and has some very, let's just say, questionable decisions he has made in years past, secured a $1.5 billion investment from a Chinese Communist Party sanctioned bank. That alone should warrant a federal investigation against Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. What exactly was brokered on that Air Force Two deal and what was done as a quid pro quo in exchange. I call Joe Biden Beijing Biden or Joe China. Joe Biden was part of a ruling class group of individuals that allowed the Chinese Communist Party to run roughshod over the middle class of America. That deindustrialized our country, fentanyl pouring into our country, opioids coming into our country, the construction of the South China Sea, the Belt and Road Initiative, the building of Chinese banks all across Europe and all across the world, the purchasing ports of entry across Africa and South America and mineral rights in very, very valuable parts of the world. And no one dared call out China until President Donald Trump. And now Joe Biden, who's corrupt, clueless, and also probably in cahoots with the Chinese Communist Party, is going to have a lot to answer for, because right now the American people are upset. They are righteously indignant against the Chinese Communist Party and what they have done to our country. And now we have an election. Now we have a referendum. And we can talk about the amazing success of President Trump's through the courts, through, of course, the economy prior to the virus, and he will rebuild this economy. But also, we must put the left and the Democrats and Joe Biden on defense with their unholy alliance with the Chinese Communist Party. They have taken money. Their families have taken money from the Chinese Communist Party. They've allowed them to rise to global dominance. They're still a developing nation. I don't think so. If Joe Biden can actually understand the question clearly, he has a lot to answer for.
Well, you bring up a lot of good points about Joe Biden. I've questioned many times, can Joe Biden even string a coherent sentence together? What is going on with Joe? All the reasons you just listed are enough that no one should want to vote for Joe Biden come November 3rd of this year. But we know now for sure, Charlie, he is the Democrats' nominee for president. And for whatever reason, however they propped him up to finally get him there, he's there. And what I think we're going to see happen is we're going to see the Democrats come out. We've already seen them try and get Barack Obama out there. We've seen that Bernie Sanders has finally caved in, and they've all come out to support Joe Biden for president. But why do you think Joe Biden specifically, when we're talking to the younger generation, because you speak with the youth of this country very, very frequently, Charlie, the youth of this country needs to understand, why would Joe Biden be absolutely the wrong choice for president as we head towards November 3rd of this year?
It's a great point. In fact, I think President Trump has an opportunity to do better in the youth vote segment, essentially the youth vote bracket, than any other Republican president in recent memory, if not the best since Ronald Reagan. And I make the argument that he can even win some of the 18 to 24 demographic in certain states. Look, Joe Biden, as I mentioned, is confused and incredibly corrupt. Not to mention, there's also a lot of questions about things he's been doing the last couple decades, and there'll be many months to speak about that. But I will say this, younger voters, they want a president who is authentic and who delivers results to the American people. Everything that young people think is broken about our political system is thanks to Joe Biden. You combine Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer, that's over 100 years of congressional representation and leadership in our own U.S. Congress. Was America becoming more competitive and stronger under their decisions? Of course not. Joe Biden is a typical D.C. ruling class politician. He's similar to Hillary Clinton. The only difference, instead of laundering money through a crime foundation like she did, he actually had his son go and actually do the business deals himself. Younger voters want a president who is decisive, someone with a clear vision to bring our country back to greatness. I'll tell you what, I, for one, who deals with the younger community and who runs Students for Trump through our organization, Turning Point Action from the outside, we are seeing a huge revival of young conservatives on college campuses. Here's some cool facts. As of today, we have triple the amount of Students for Trump groups than Students for Biden. And we had more Students for Trump groups than Students for Bernie Sanders on college campuses, and it's only going to grow. Our full-time staff at Turning Point Action through the project Students for Trump, we have 15 full-time staff on the ground registering voters. Well, not doing a lot of registering right now for obvious reasons, but as soon as we're allowed to get back on the ground, that's going to continue to expand. I would much rather run up against corrupt and clueless than authentic and free stuff if it was Bernie Sanders. There are so many young people that supported Bernie Sanders that will not vote at all, and they will keep an open mind to vote for President Trump. And if I were to suggest how we do our messaging, we have to be incredibly aggressive against Joe Biden and the political ruling class standard that he wants to keep going in our country, and how President Trump is able to run as an outsider, as an incumbent, and the results he's been able to deliver for young Americans. Young people want leadership, they want clarity of thought, and they want a vision. Joe Biden is able to deliver none of those things.
Wow. Well, so important, all the work that you're doing. So glad that the youth of this country has someone like you that is able to connect so well with them. And get out there and register to vote, everybody that's watching. It is so important as we head towards this election that everybody gets registered to vote. Make sure your friends and family are as well. All right, Charlie, stay right there. We're going to take one more quick break, and we will be right back.
President Trump cruises to victory with a record-breaking Republican turnout.
Trump got more total votes than Obama got as an incumbent.
Republican turnout operation in Texas is extraordinary.
Complete domination.
Receiving more primary votes than any sitting president.
We're winning. We're winning all over.
We had record turnout for an incumbent president.
The Republican Party has never been unified like it is now.
Turnout was also huge for Donald Trump.
President Trump celebrating a record-breaking victory.
It's not even a party, it's a movement.
More than President Obama had by a wide margin.
Let's realize how good Donald Trump's political operation is.
To all Americans tonight, I'm with you, the American people. I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. And we are going to keep America great.
Welcome back to Team Trump Online. I'm Lara Trump, and tonight we've been talking with Charlie Kirk. All right, Charlie, I want to go into some experiences you've had while traveling around the country. When you go to college campuses, how are you seeing conservatives being treated these days?
Well, look, thanks to President Trump's executive order on free speech, which was drafted last year, which was partly inspired by one of our Turning Point USA activists at University of California, Berkeley, getting smacked in the face. Ever since the passage and the signing of that executive order, we have seen the treatment of conservatives to be far more equitable and fair. There are still a lot of universities that go out of their way to try to silence free speech and try to prevent our Turning Point USA groups and our Students for Trump groups from being able to form and being able to recruit other students. I'll tell you what, similar to how there is an oppositional media that continues to put forth fake news and the American people are waking up to it, the same can be said for these college campuses and the professor ruling class that hold these Marxist, anti-American ideas that are trying to essentially indoctrinate future generations. We see so many 18, 19, and 20-year-olds waking up to the reality that they have not been given the full picture. And this is why I think President Trump has a huge opportunity to win the youth vote. And I could tell you, we did a huge campus tour back in the fall. We weren't able to finish our campus tour this semester for obvious reasons. But we did that campus tour. You joined me at North Carolina State University, Laura, your alma mater, and you saw it firsthand. We had more students outside wanting to get into the event than we were even able to have into the room. We had a packed room, 2,000 students at least. And the same could be said when we went to Colorado State University, University of Iowa, University of New Hampshire. There is a movement growing on college campuses. And of course, we focus a lot of our attention on the professors, the administration, and the left-wing activists that scream at us and throw things. I think when you and I went to North Carolina State University together, and you were wonderful, by the way, there was a couple people protesting, but that's all just noise. That's going to happen no matter what. What gives me hope and optimism are the students that come with an open mind, that are persuaded, that are convinced, that are convicted to go vote for Donald Trump, that are convicted to go think in a conservative fashion, thanks to the outreach that we're doing. And everyone listening to this broadcast, I want you to know that there is this revolution happening in the younger generation. The left will offer no solutions. They'll only offer blame for your problems. And you can see Joe Biden. I think deep down, Democrats and young Democrats in particular know that Joe Biden is not the best, not the choice at all for President of the United States. They know that he's corrupt. They know that he's confused. They know he's just a figurehead for the Democrat cartel that wants to get back into power. Give President Trump 4 more years to continue to represent the best interests of our generation and our country.
Well, Charlie, I had so much fun with you at my alma mater. What a great time. I highly encourage everybody out there to participate in events that are held on campus, off campus, get involved. We've seen, though, Charlie, that you have been some really intense videos. You've been treated pretty poorly at some of these schools. You have people yelling at you, but you always fight back, and you fight back with facts. If you had to talk to a student out there who felt like they were conservative, they wanted to learn more, but they were afraid maybe to speak out on their college campus. What would you say to them? How would you encourage that person?
Yeah, and I know it's tough. I mean, you might be kicked out of fraternities and sororities. You might lose friends because you come out as a conservative or a Trump supporter. That's why I encourage people to join Turning Point USA or start a Students for Trump chapter. There are more of us than they will ever give us credit for. The left is decreasing in number, but increasing in volume. They are increasing in their intolerance of conservative values, perspectives, and ideas. But I'll tell you what, the left has emotion. We have facts, logic, reason, history, analytical thinking, and we are truly tolerant. We will let them, we will fight to the death for their right to be wrong. Yet they want to do whatever they possibly can to shut us up or to silence us. And we are on the winning side of this debate and this dialogue. And I'll tell you, for young people that are worried and that have been punished and bullied for their conservative beliefs, we have your back. We experience it. You mentioned some of the videos where I go straight into the anti-Trump mobs, where they are throwing stuff, where they are yelling the worst things you could possibly say.
I know.
Stand your ground. You are not alone. You are on the side of truth. You are defending Western civilization in our country, and this is a battle we are going to win.
Yeah, you got that right. Well, thanks for all that you're doing with that, Charlie. I know it's not easy. It takes a lot of guts to get out there and put yourself, in the middle of things like you do, but you're so amazing at it, and we appreciate everything that you do out there. Final question I want to ask you, everybody's obviously trying to do their part out there to stop the spread of coronavirus. I know that you travel all the time, generally speaking. How has life changed for you? How are you managing? Are you staying sane? What's going on with you these days?
Well, it's actually the most stationary I've been since high school.
So, me too.
It's the longest I've not been on a plane since high school, which, look, everything can be turned into a blessing, and it has been. We've been really focusing on our podcast, which everyone should subscribe if you're interested. And we've been doing great. It's been a different time to be in our country, that's for sure. But we're adapting, and we're entrepreneurs here. We've been very agile. We've been kind of taking it with a good, happy warrior attitude. We know as soon as the country reopens, we are going to be in a better position than ever before to play offense with a sense of urgency to win America's culture war. We know the American left is going to dive into victimhood, and I think that there's a lot of leftists out there that are actually enjoying seeing people sit at home do nothing. And I think that there's a lot of eagerness and pent-up demand, as our great president says, to get our economy roaring again. But yeah, it's been different. Been definitely reading a lot more, been definitely having some time to really reflect on how the last couple of years have been, but also plan for a successful election come this November. Can't wait. And once America reopens, we're going to be more prepared than ever before.
Yep. All right. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We want to, of course, continue to raise up the next generation to become freedom-loving patriots. And we appreciate all the great work you're doing in spreading the message of American values. So thanks for that. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
And to all of you freedom-loving patriots, we need you to get involved with us as we work towards 4 more years of President Donald J. Trump. If you or your friends, family, or neighbors want to be involved in our fight to re-elect the president, please visit armyfortrump.com to sign up. And there are tons of ways to get involved while following the president's social distancing guidelines. You can attend digital TVLI trainings, host virtual MAGA meetups, and phone bank. Thanks again to our guest, Charlie Kirk, and thank you for joining us tonight. We will see you again very soon for another episode of Team Trump Online.